Imagine a creature that lifts a weight 50 times heavier than its own body above its head. A creature that builds cities with millions of inhabitants. A creature that wages wars, takes slaves, grows crops, and raises cattle. A creature that has lived on Earth for 113 million years and survived dinosaurs, ice ages, asteroid impacts. No, this is not a character from a science fiction movie. This is an ant, the same one you crushed in the kitchen yesterday, without even thinking about it. There are 20 quadrillion of them on the planet. For each of us, there are 2.5 million of these tiny creatures, and their total mass exceeds the mass of all wild birds and mammals combined. Today, 100 facts after which you will never look at an ant the same way again. Stay until the end. Closer to the middle of the video, I will tell about an ability that sounds so insane that I checked it 3 times myself. You are on the Wild Planet channel, and we are starting. Fact 1. Approximately 20 quadrillion ants live on Earth. That is 20 with 15 zeros. A study from 2022 published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences for the first time calculated this number based on the analysis of almost 500 field studies from all continents. Scientists from the University of Hong Kong and the University of Würzburg in Germany concluded that this is still a conservative estimate. To understand the scale, if every ant on Earth were a grain of sand, it would be enough to cover the entire territory of Ukraine with a layer of sand several meters deep. Fact 2. The total dry biomass of all ants on the planet is approximately 12 million tons of carbon. This is more than the mass of all wild birds and all wild mammals on Earth combined. Think about it. All elephants, all whales, all tigers, all bears, all eagles, and all sparrows. All of that weighs less than the ants. About 20% of the total biomass of humanity. We think we are the masters of the planet. Ants apparently have a different opinion on this matter. Fact 3. Science knows more than 17,000 species of ants, and according to scientists, estimates the real number may reach 22,000. New species are described every year. They live on all continents except Antarctica. They are in tropical forests and in deserts, in mountains at an altitude of 4,000 meters, and in the basements of city houses. Fact 4. The oldest fossil ant is 113 million years old. It was found in limestone in northeastern Brazil and described in 2025 in the journal Current Biology. Entomologist Anderson Lepe from the Zoological Museum of the University of Sao Paulo discovered it while sorting through fossil collections. This species was named Vulcanidris cretensis and belonged to the extinct subfamily of hell ants, Hydomyrmecinae. Their jaws worked not from side to side like in modern ants, but vertically like sickles. They impaled prey on a spike on the head. These creatures lived side by side with dinosaurs. Dinosaurs went extinct. Ants did not. Fact 5. Ants descend from wasps. This is not a metaphor or simplification. Genetic and paleontological data indicate that ants separated from wasp ancestors in the Cretaceous period between 168 and 120 million years ago. The key difference is the metapleural gland, located above the hind legs. It secretes antibacterial substances and allows ants to live in huge colonies in soil and rotting wood without dying from infections. It is this gland that enabled everything we know today about ants. Fact 6. The average ant weighs from 1 to 5 milligrams. This is like a pair of thicker sugar grains, but the range is colossal. A pharaoh ant worker weighs about 1 milligram, and the South American bullet ant up to 90 milligrams. The difference is almost 100-fold, as if comparing a hamster and a large dog. Fact 7. The largest of the currently living ants is Dinoponera gigantea from South America. Workers grow up to 3.4 centimeters. This is roughly the length of your little finger. An ant the length of a little finger. When it crawls on your hand, you feel it. Fact 8. And the smallest ants of the genus Caribara have a length of only about 1 millimeter. They can be noticed only when you bring your face very close to the ground. 30 such ants fit on 1 grain of rice. Fact 9. Ants have 6 legs, 2 compound eyes, and 3 simple ocelli on the top of the head. Compound eyes consist of many facets, in some species up to 600, but the vision in most ants is quite weak. They perceive the world mainly through smells. Ants have 400 different olfactory receptors. For comparison, a fruit fly has 61, a mosquito from 70 to 158, a bee 174. An ant is the olfactory champion among insects. Fact 10. Every ant has two stomachs, one personal for its own nutrition. The second is called the social stomach, or crop. In it, the ant carries liquid food to share with its fellows. This process is called trophallaxis, passing food from mouth to mouth. This is how ants feed the queen, larvae, and each other. In essence, they are walking cafeterias. Fact 11. An ant's body is covered with an exoskeleton, an external skeleton made of chitin, no internal bones. Muscles attached to this outer shell from the inside. This is what gives ants their incredible strength to mass ratio. Without a heavy internal skeleton, there is more room for muscle tissue. Imagine if you removed your skeleton and replaced it with a light bulletproof vest and filled all the free space with muscles. Roughly how an ant is built. Fact 12. An ant has two sets of jaws, the lower ones for eating and the upper mandibles. These are simultaneously a weapon, a tool, and hands. With them, the ant digs soil, cuts leaves, fights enemies, carries loads, and meticulously cleans pollen from pupae. With one movement of the mandibles, an ant can cut off an opponent's head, and a minute later with the same mandibles, carefully carry an egg without damaging it. Fact 13. And now, what many of you clicked this video for, strength. An ant is able to carry a weight exceeding its own body weight 50 times, dragging even more. In 2010, English scientists photographed an Asian weaver ant, whose worker held a weight exceeding its mass 100 times. If a human weighing 80 kilograms had the same relative strength, he would lift from 4 to 5 tons above his head. This is the weight of 2 cars. Above the head on straightened arms, the world record in weightlifting 266 kilograms, set by the Soviet weightlifter Leonid Taranenko. An ant, if recalculated in proportions, beats this record dozens of times. Fact 14. The secret of ant strength lies in the laws of physics. Relative muscle strength is inversely proportional to body size. When you reduce an organism, its mass falls faster than the cross-sectional area of the muscles. Therefore, small creatures do not need to spend as much energy maintaining their own weight. If a human were reduced to the size of an ant, he would also become incredibly strong, but still would not surpass the insect. The exoskeleton and different muscle attachment system give an additional advantage. Fact 15. Doctor of Biological Sciences Alexei Gilev from the Institute of Plant and Animal Ecology of the Ural branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences notes an important difference. An ant can drag and carry a very heavy load, but lifting and carrying is different. According to his observations, ants carried loads 14 to 15 times heavier than their own mass. An ant weighing 10 milligrams carried up to 150 milligrams. For a human to repeat this feat, he would have to carry a log weighing about 1.5 tons. Fact 16. And here's what personally struck me the most. When two ants work together, their combined power is almost 3 times greater than the sum of the power of each individually. Laboratory experiments showed one ant develops power of about 24 ergs per second. Two ants together, 63. Not 48 as one might expect, 63. Literally, they become stronger when they work as a team, as if cooperation itself generates additional energy. Scientists have not yet fully explained this phenomenon. Fact 17. An ant is not the strongest insect. The dung beetle is able to move weights exceeding its mass 850 times. But the ant is the most obvious strongman because it is the one we see every day, dragging a twig 5 times longer than its own body. And because it does this not once for a record, but thousands of times every day without weekends. Fact 18. Ants do not sleep in the usual sense for us. They doze in short episodes of 1-2 minutes, up to 250 times a day. The total sleep time of a worker ant is about 4 to 5 hours, divided into hundreds of microsleeps. The queen sleeps more, up to 9 hours. Attentive ant keepers who raise ant farms at home notice that upon waking, ants stretch their legs to the sides and open their jaws. It looks exactly like a yawning human. Fact 19. An ant colony is a superorganism. The term was introduced by the American entomologist William Morton Wheeler in 1911. The essence is that a single ant cannot survive alone. The colony functions like a single living creature where each ant is a cell. There are worker foragers that obtain food. There are builders, there are nurses caring for larvae, there are soldiers. There is a queen producing eggs. None is able to perform all functions, only together they create a viable organism. Fact 20. An ant colony has no leader. No one gives orders. The queen does not command, she only lays eggs. Decisions are made in a distributed way through chemical signals. Scientists call this swarm intelligence. Each ant follows simple rules reacting to smells around. And from millions of such simple reactions arises complex collective behavior. The colony solves tasks that no single ant is even able to comprehend. Tell me honestly, have you ever observed ants for longer than 5 minutes? Just sat and watched them work? Write in the comments. It really interests me because this is usually where the fascination begins. 5 minutes and you cannot tear yourself away. Fact 21. Ants communicate using pheromones, chemical substances that they secrete and recognize with their antennae. Each ant covers its body with a mixture of 40-50 different chemical compounds. By this signature, they immediately determine this is one of their own or a stranger from which colony, what role it performs, and even what mood it is in. This is like a passport, a business card, and an emotional status in one bottle, or rather, in one smell. Fact 22. Every anthill has its own unique smell, a kind of chemical barcode of the colony. It consists of a combination of dozens of substances. 2 anthills of the same species will smell different. This is like a fingerprint, unique for each family. Fact 23. When a scout ant finds food, it returns to the anthill, leaving behind a pheromone trail. Other ants follow this trail. If they also find food, they reinforce the trail with their pheromones. If the food is finished, they stop. The trail gradually evaporates. In this way, the colony automatically directs main forces where there are more resources. Without maps, without GPS, without meetings. Fact 24. This principle became the basis of optimization algorithms in computer science. In 1992, the Italian scientist Marco Dorigo proposed the ant algorithm, a method for solving optimization problems inspired by ant behavior. It is used to calculate routes for logistics companies, design communication networks, and even plan train schedules. Ants inspire technologies that we use every day without even knowing it. Fact 25. In addition to pheromones, ants communicate through touch with antennae and legs. Some species use vibrations by hitting the abdomen on the ground. There are species that produce sounds. Stridulation, using a special organ at the junction of body segments. This is something like a miniature grater. One part of the body scrapes against another, and the sound is transmitted through the substrate. Fact 26. Russian scientists, under the leadership of Zhana Reznikova from Novosibirsk State University, conducted a series of experiments studying ant communication. Using approaches from information theory, they measured how much time an ant needs to transmit messages of varying complexity. It turned out that scout ants transmit to foragers exact information about the route to food, and the transmission time grows in proportion to the complexity of the route. This is not simply, go after me. This is the transmission of an abstract instruction. Honestly, when I first read about these experiments, I had to read twice. Ants describe the route with words. Well, not words, but information. Fact 27. Ants change profession with age. Young individuals start as nurses. They take care of eggs and larvae deep in the nest. As they mature, they move to construction and cleaning work. The most mature and experienced become foragers. They go to the surface to obtain food. This is the most dangerous job. Predators weather competitors. That is why it is entrusted to those who have already survived most of their life. The logic is brutal but effective. Fact 28. An ant queen is not a queen in the common sense. She does not manage. She is the reproductive center of the colony. Her only task is laying eggs. During her entire life, one queen can produce millions of eggs. Workers feed her through trophallaxis, clean her, protect her. She sits in the deepest chambers of the nest. If the queen dies, the colony is doomed. There will simply be no new workers. Fact 29. The German entomologist Hermann Appel kept in captivity a queen of the black garden ant, Lasius niger. She lived 28 3/4 years. This is a record among insects. Field studies show that queens of some Pogonomyrmex species live up to 30 years in the natural environment. 30 years. For a creature the size of a rice grain, this is 100 times longer than the average lifespan of a solitary insect. I admit, for me, this was one of the most astonishing discoveries. Fact 30. Workers live much shorter, from several weeks to several years, depending on the species. Fire ant workers, 30 to 60 days. Black garden ant workers, up to 4 years in laboratory conditions. And males live very briefly. Their only task is mating with the queen. After mating, they die, sometimes the same day. The life of a male ant is one flight and one mission. Fact 31. How is it determined who an ant will become? A worker, a soldier, or a queen? Genetically, all females are identical. The difference is in nutrition. Larvae receiving more and better quality food develop into a queen. The rest become workers. Workers control this process, deciding how much and what kind of food to give each larva. In essence, workers decide the fate of each new generation. Not the queen, workers. Fact 32. The sex of an ant is determined by a chromosomal mechanism called haplodiploidy. Fertilized eggs become females, workers, or queens. Unfertilized become males. This means the queen can decide at will what sex the offspring will be, controlling which eggs to fertilize. She stores sperm from the only mating flight for her entire life, sometimes for decades, and uses it as needed. Fact 33. The mating flight. One of the most impressive events in the life of an ant colony. On a warm, humid day after rain, with light wind, thousands of winged females and males fly out from nests at the same time. They rise into the air, often mate in flight, and then young, fertilized females land, bite off their wings, and look for a place for a new colony. Males die. Wings are no longer needed. They only interfere with digging soil. New life begins with an act of self-amputation. Fact 34. A young queen founding a colony buries herself in the ground, closes herself in a chamber, and lays the first batch of eggs. She feeds the first larvae with special trophic eggs, unfertilized eggs, intended solely for food. In essence, she feeds part of her potential offspring with those already born. When the first workers grow up, they take over obtaining food. The queen never leaves the nest again. Fact 35. Some ant species reproduce without mating at all. Females of the genus Cataglyphus produce offspring through parthenogenesis. All are clones of the mother, all females. They do not need males at all. This is a completely female society reproducing itself. Fact 36. Leafcutter ants from South America are true farmers. They do not eat leaves at all. Their digestive system is not capable of digesting plant cellulose. Instead, they cut leaves with powerful mandibles, carry pieces to underground chambers, and use them as substrate for growing fungi. Fungi are their real food. Leafcutter ants mastered agriculture 50 million years before humans. Fact 37. The fungi that leafcutters cultivate, the species Leucoagaricus gondulaforus, do not occur anywhere outside their anthills. This is a completely domesticated species, a crop plant. Ants provide the mycelium with ideal microclimate, sterility, ventilation, and a constant supply of fresh substrate. In return, the fungi produce special nutritious outgrowths, gondulidia, which ants harvest as the crop. Fact 38. This personally surprised me. When a young leafcutter queen flies off to found a new colony, workers put a piece of mycelium into her special mouth cavity. She carries it like a seed to start a fungus garden in the new place. Without this grain, the colony will not survive. This is as if a farmer moving to new land carried wheat seeds in his pocket. Only ants have been doing this for 50 million years. Fact 39. But fungus gardens have an enemy, a parasitic fungus that specializes in leafcutter mycelium. And ants found a solution. Bacteria actinomycetes live on their bodies that produce an antibiotic killing exactly this parasite. Ants carry the bacteria deliberately, pass them on hereditarily. This is a triple symbiosis, ant fungus and bacterium. Each depends on the other two. Researchers from the portal elementi.ru noted that such a system arose evolutionarily and has been maintained for millions of years. Fact 40. In addition to growing fungi, ants engage in animal husbandry. Many species herd aphids. Aphids suck sap and secrete sweet liquid honeydew. Ants tickle aphids with antennae, stimulating honeydew secretion and collect it. In return, they protect aphids from predators, ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies. They move aphids to fresh shoots, shelter them from rain. This is not a metaphor for herding, this is herding. Fact 41. Some species of ants herd meaty scale insects, mealybugs, which they keep in underground chambers for secretions. And harvester ants collect and store seeds in special granaries inside the anthill. They even gnaw off sprouts from seeds so they do not germinate in storage. This is no longer just gathering. This is processing and storage. Fact 42. Anthills are engineering structures of astonishing complexity. Underground nests of leafcutters can reach a depth of up to 8 meters. This is a 3-story house downward. They contain hundreds of chambers for various purposes. Chambers for eggs, chambers for larvae, chambers for pupa, fungus gardens, granaries, waste chambers, cemeteries. Ventilation systems provide air circulation. Drainage channels drain water. These are underground cities with thoughtful infrastructure. Fact 43. Weaver ants of the genus Ecophylla build nests from living leaves on trees. Workers pull the edges of leaves, holding them with mandibles and legs. Other workers bring larvae which secrete silk thread and use them as living glue tubes, pulling them between the edges of leaves. They literally sew a house from leaves using their own children as tools. It sounds creepy, but it works flawlessly. Fact 44. Fire ants. Solenopsis invicta during floods gather into living rafts. Thousands of individuals interweave with each other, creating a floating platform that can stay on water for weeks. The queen and larvae are in the center, in safety. Workers in the lower layer in contact with water constantly change. No one commands, no one assigns shifts. It happens by itself through chemical signals and simple behavioral rules. Fact 45. Army ants build bridges from their own bodies. When a column encounters a gap, the front ants cling to each other, forming a living structure over which the rest pass. They calculate the length of the bridge, its width and duration of existence, and dismantle the stream as passed, without drawings, without an engineer. Fact 46. An ant colony is capable of making collective decisions that surpass in quality the decisions of individuals. A study of Temnothorax albipennis ants showed how they choose a new nest site. Scouts examined several options. Those who found good territory recruit other scouts more actively. When the number of votes for one of the options reaches a quorum threshold, the move begins. This process stably selects the best option among those proposed. Democracy that works. Fact 47. The brain of one ant contains about 250,000 neurons. For comparison, a human has 86 billion. But a colony of 1 million ants is 250 billion neurons acting in concert. This is more than any single animal on Earth. Of course, ant neurons are not connected in one network like in a brain, but through pheromones, touches, and sounds, they create a distributed computing system, a biological internet. Fact 48. Researchers from Rockefeller University discovered that Harpagnathos saltator ants are capable of switching their social status. If the queen dies, workers arrange a tournament, a series of ritual duels. Winners undergo physiological transformation. Their ovaries enlarge. The chemical composition of the body changes, and they begin to lay eggs. A worker becomes a queen. This is as if a soldier losing a commander physically turned into a general. He did not receive a rank, but changed biologically. Fact 49. Ants wage wars, real ones on a large scale, with thousands of casualties. Colonies of the same species fight for territory, resources, and slaves. Argentine ants in California formed a super colony stretching for hundreds of kilometers and waged continuous war with other super colonies. The front line runs through house backyards in the suburbs. Losses millions of individuals per year, but the colony continues to grow. Fact 50. Amazon ants of the genus Polyergus are slave owners. They raid colonies of other species, kidnap pupae, and bring them to their anthill. The hatched ants recognize the invaders as their family and work for them. Amazons have degenerated so much that they themselves are unable to eat, build, or care for offspring. Slaves feed them, carry them on their backs. Without slaves, Amazons will die within a few days. This is absolute dependence that arose in the course of evolution. Fact 51. And now, what I promised at the beginning of the video. The parasitic fungus Ophiocordyceps unilateralis turns ants into zombies. Literally, the fungus spores enter the ant's body through breathing holes. The fungus grows inside, enveloping all organs with a complex cellular network. At the same time, it does not touch the brain. It does not touch the brain, but controls behavior. An infected ant leaves the colony, climbs a plant, finds a leaf at a certain height with certain humidity, bites into the leaf vein with its jaws and dies. After a few days, a fruiting body of the fungus grows from its head, which disperses spores onto ants below. The fungus grows twice as long as the ant's body. The ant becomes not a victim, but a construction site and a launch platform for the parasite. Honestly, when I first learned about this, I did not believe it. I had to check in several sources. David Hughes from the University of Pennsylvania assembled an entire international team to study this phenomenon. The results were published in peer-reviewed journals. This is reality. Fact 52. Cordyceps does not penetrate the ant's brain, but controls its behavior through neurotransmitters. A study from 2020 under the leadership of Ian Will from the University of Central Florida showed that the parasite disrupts the ant's circadian rhythms, its smell perception system, and the transmission of neural signals. In essence, the fungus reprograms the body's chemistry without touching the processor. This is as if a hacker hacked your operating system without touching the hard drive. Fact 53. But ants are not defenseless. If the colony detects an infected individual, healthy ants grab it and carry it far from the nest to a kind of quarantine. Some species have learned to recognize infection at early stages before the parasite takes control. Collective immunity, long before humans invented this term. Fact 54. Ants use medicine. A study published in the journal Evolution showed that infected Formica fusca ants deliberately consume food with increased hydrogen peroxide content, a natural antiseptic found in some products. Healthy ants avoid this product. Sick ones seek it out. They engage in self-treatment. Fact 55. And now a question for you. Did you know that ants can be dangerous to humans? That people die from ant bites around the world every year? Write in the comments if you have ever encountered a painful ant bite, because we will talk about this in detail further. Fact 56. Ants kill people. This is not an exaggeration. On the island of Tasmania, more people die from bites of black bulldog ants, Myrmecia pilosula, than from venomous spiders, wasps, snakes, and sharks combined. The venom of these ants causes anaphylactic shock in 3% of people. 3% seems small, but when an anthill is located next to a path in a park, 3% is a statistic that becomes a personal tragedy. Fact 57. Bulldog ants, Myrmecia gulosa, are the most dangerous ants on the planet. They inhabit Australia and elsewhere. The length of a worker up to 45 millimeters. This is almost 5 centimeters, the length of a large paperclip. They are aggressive, fast, have powerful toothed jaws, and a sting with toxic venom. They do not run away, they attack. They carefully guard their anthills and attack anyone who approaches. Fact 58. The red fire ant, Solenopsis invicta, is one of the most dangerous invasive species on the planet. Originating from South America, it has spread to all warm regions of the world: the USA, China, Taiwan, Australia. Through the sting, it injects solenopsin venom, causing severe pain, chemical burn, and in some cases, anaphylactic shock. One bite is tolerable, but fire ants attack in groups, dozens, hundreds of bites at once. In the last half-century, about 100 doctoral dissertations have been defended, and more than 3,000 scientific articles published on this one species. Fact 59. The bullet ant, Paraponera clavata from South America, received its name from the strength of the bite. According to the Schmidt pain scale, a classification developed by the American entomologist Justin Schmidt, the bullet ant's sting received the highest index, 4+. Nothing more painful exists in the world of insects. The sensations are described as comparable to a gunshot wound. The pain lasts up to 24 hours. The length of the sting, 3.5 millimeters. The length of the venom reservoir, almost 2 millimeters. For an insect, this is artillery. Fact 60. The Brazilian Indian tribe Sateri Mawe uses bullet ants in an initiation rite. A teenage boy is put on his hands, gloves woven from leaves, inside which dozens of live bullet ants are sewn with stings inward. He must keep his hands in the gloves for 10 minutes. After the rite, the hands become paralyzed and lose sensation for several days. The ritual is repeated several times a year. There have been fatal cases. This is not a legend, but a documented ethnographic practice. Fact 61. Army ants, or nomadic eciton and doralus, do not build permanent nests. Their colonies are constantly moving. Millions of blind, aggressive ants move in a single stream, destroying everything in their path. Insects, larvae, snakes, rodents, everyone who did not have time to escape. The width of the army can reach 100 meters. In Africa, local residents leave their homes when a column of nomadic ants approaches. They prefer to leave and return later than to stay. Fact 62. There is no unambiguous answer to the question of how many people die from ants per year. Accurate data is difficult to obtain because deaths from anaphylactic shock are not always associated with ant bites. But according to estimates, we are talking about dozens of deaths per year, mainly from fire ants in the USA and bulldog ants in Australia. This is more than from shark attacks. Fact 63. In addition to direct harm from bites, ants carry pathogens of diseases. Red house ants can carry salmonella, pathogens of dysentery, diphtheria, cholera, helminth eggs. They crawl on garbage, on food on the table. Small, unnoticeable, and potentially dangerous. Fact 64. But let's return to the amazing. Ants can count. Studies have shown that desert ants, Cataglyphus fortis, have an internal pedometer. They count steps to determine the distance to the nest. When scientists artificially lengthen their legs by gluing tiny stilts from bristles, the ants missed the nest going further. When they shorten the legs, they did not reach it. They count steps, literally. Fact 65. Desert ants, Cataglyphus, orient themselves by the position of the sun using polarized light. Even when the sun is covered by clouds, they determine its position by the polarization of scattered light in the atmosphere. This is a built-in compass working without batteries and satellites, and they combine it with a pedometer. 2 navigation devices in a body the size of a rice grain. Fact 66. Some ant species use landmarks, visual landscape features. Remembering trees, stones, shadows, they create cognitive maps of the terrain. Not chemical trails, not pheromones, but visual memory. For a creature with eyes of several hundred ommatidia, this is an impressive achievement. Fact 67. The silver Sahara ant, Cataglyphus bombacina, is one of the most heat-resistant land animals. It comes to the surface at sand temperatures up to 70 degrees Celsius. Its body is covered with fine, silvery hairs, reflecting sunlight and radiation. This is a biological spacesuit for working on a heated surface. It moves so fast that its legs touch the sand for a minimal time. It literally runs on a hot frying pan. Fact 68. Ants of the genus Polyrhacus are among the few that can swim and dive. They build nests in mangrove thickets and, during high tides, calmly survive flooding by creating air bubbles inside the nest. When necessary, they swim using all 6 legs. Fact 69. Ants and traps. Odontomachus have the fastest jaws in the animal world. The mandibles snap shut at a speed of up to 140 miles per hour. This is about 230 kilometers per hour. The closing time from 64 to 130 microseconds. For understanding a human eye blink, takes from 100 to 400 milliseconds. An ant snaps its jaws 1,000 times faster than you blink. They use this force not only for hunting, but also for catapulting. Hitting the jaws on the ground, they throw themselves into the air, escaping from predators. Fact 70. I remember when I first read about this, I could not believe it for a long time. Ants practice grooming mutual cleaning. They spend a significant part of their time cleaning each other from dirt, fungus, spores, and parasites. This is not only hygiene, it is a social bond. An ant that has not received grooming for a long time becomes restless. The one being cleaned relaxes. This is similar to how primates groom each other. Social contact strengthening bonds within the group. Fact 71. Ants bury their dead. Specialized worker necrophores carry corpses out of the nest and place them in certain places, kind of cemeteries. The signal for removal is oleic acid, which is released during decomposition. If oleic acid is applied to a live ant, its fellows will drag it to the cemetery despite desperate resistance. The smell of death is more important to them than behavior. Dead means dead even if it moves. Fact 72. Ants help the wounded. Megaponera analis ants, after a raid on termites, carry back wounded comrades. Those who lost legs in battle give a help signal, and healthy ants pick them up and carry them home. A study from 2017 showed that such evacuation of the wounded significantly increases the survival of individuals and the overall number of the colony. They do not abandon their own. Fact 73. Rescue ants, cataglyphus, dig out fellow ants buried under sand collapses. Experiments showed that they respond to chemical danger signals and dig exactly in the place where the buried ant is. They are rescuers with shovels from jaws and navigation from antennae. Fact 74. Edward Wilson, one of the greatest biologists of the 20th century, Harvard professor, two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, devoted a significant part of his career to ants. His fundamental monograph, The Ants, written together with Bert Holdobler and published in 1990, received the Pulitzer Prize in nonfiction. This is the only case when the Pulitzer was awarded to a book about insects. Wilson called insects small creatures that rule the world, and he was not joking. Fact 75. Ants exist on every continent except Antarctica, but their distribution is uneven. Tropical forests and unexpectedly dry regions maintain the highest density of ant populations, and in areas changed by humans, agricultural lands, urban zones, there are significantly fewer. We have been displacing them for decades and continue to do so. Fact 76. The Argentine ant Linepithema humuli formed a supercolony stretching along the Mediterranean coast for 6,000 kilometers from Italy to Spain. All ants in this supercolony consider each other relatives and show no aggression. This is one of the largest cooperative structures among animals on Earth. 6,000 kilometers is roughly the distance from Kiev to New York if flying in a straight line. Fact 77. Invasive ant species are a serious environmental problem. Fire ants in Australia destroy local insects, attack chicks, young turtles, even young alligators. They have no local predators. They reproduce uncontrollably. Scientists warn that without massive control measures, fire ants will become one of the most destructive invasive pests in Australia. Fact 78. Ants play a key role in ecosystems. They move more soil than earthworms in many tropical regions. They disperse plant seeds. Thousands of plant species depend on ants for dispersal. They accelerate the decomposition of organic matter. They control populations of other insects. A study from 2022, published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, showed that ants can be more effective than pesticides in protecting agricultural crops. Free ecological working 24 hours a day. Fact 79. Ants inspired robotics. Engineers around the world create robots imitating ant behavior. Small, simple robots following simple rules, but capable of jointly solving complex tasks, moving loads, exploring territories, building structures. The principle of swarm intelligence turned out to be revolutionary for autonomous systems. Fact 80. This version is questioned, but it is too beautiful not to mention. Some researchers believe that ants are capable of primitive learning. Young forager ants follow experienced ones and adopt routes. This is not behavior programmed genetically. This is the transfer of experience from one individual to another. If this is confirmed in more rigorous experiments, it will mean the existence of primitive culture in insects. Here's another question for you. If ants suddenly disappeared from the surface of the Earth, what do you think would happen? Ecosystem collapse? Or would we not even notice? Write your version in the comments, because the correct answer, I will say right away, is terrifying. Fact 81. If all ants disappeared, the consequences would be catastrophic. Thousands of plant species dependent on ants for seed dispersal would begin to die out. The decomposition of organic matter would slow down, soil aeration would worsen. Many species of birds, lizards, and mammals feeding on ants would lose their main food source. Tropical forest ecosystems would degrade. This is not a world without mosquitoes where little would change. This is a world without a foundation. Fact 82. And if humans disappeared, it would only be better for ants. Forests would revive, pesticides would disappear, habitats would expand. For them, we are an obstacle. For us, they are the foundation. Fact 83. Ants are able to withstand huge temperature fluctuations. Some species are active at -20 degrees, others at +70 on the surface, a range of 90 degrees. A human without clothing and shelter survives in a range of about 30 to 40 degrees. Ants are adapted to conditions that would kill us in minutes. Fact 84. Some ant species have live food stores. In honey ants of the genus Myrmecocystus, special worker repletes fill themselves with nectar to such an extent that their abdomen swells to the size of a grape. They hang from the ceiling of the chamber and on demand return food for their fellows. Live barrels of honey. In Australia, Aborigines eat repletes as a delicacy, sweet, rich in sugars. Fact 85. Carpenter ants, Camponotus, gnaw corridors in wood, creating complex systems of chambers and tunnels. They do not eat wood, unlike termites. They simply build in it. But at the same time, they are able to cause serious damage to wooden structures. Beams, walls, floors, everything can be undermined from the inside, while outside, nothing is visible. A silent disaster. Fact 86. Ants are capable of creating farms, not only with fungi and aphids. Ants of the species Allomeris decimarticulatus build traps from plant fibers, kind of platforms with many holes. When a victim insect sits on the surface, dozens of ants grab its legs through the holes from below. This is an organized ambush. Team hunting, using a self-made trap, behavior long considered the domain of vertebrates. Fact 87. Ants can hear through vibrations. A specialized organ on the tibia, the subgenual organ, detects vibrations transmitted through the soil. Ants communicate by tapping the abdomen on the surface, and fellows feel these signals at a distance of several centimeters. For us, centimeters are nothing. For an ant, the distance is equal to the length of its body, as if you heard your neighbor knocking from a distance of 2 kilometers. Fact 88. Ants can play sports. Observations showed that young worker bulldog ants perform what scientists cautiously called training skirmishes. They fight each other without causing harm, practicing fighting skills. Sparring in an insect. Fact 89. Ants remember enemies. Experiments showed that after a clash with aggressive strangers, ants strengthen patrolling of the territory and increase mobilization of workers for several days. They not only react to a threat, they remember that the threat was, and prepare for a repeat. Fact 90. Genetic studies have shown that ants within one colony are not always full sisters. The queen can mate with several males during the mating flight. This means that in the colony, there are family clans, groups of full sisters and half-sisters, and internal competition arises between them. The colony is not as unanimous as it seems from the outside. Fact 91. Ants of the species Temnothorax pilegens carry out raids on other colonies, but not for slaves. They steal food. Pure robbery. Well-organized, fast, with minimal losses. They enter, take what they need, leave. Professional raiders. Fact 92. Some species practice social parasitism. A young queen penetrates an alien colony, kills or subjugates the local queen, and forces alien workers to raise her own offspring. She deceives them by imitating the chemical signature of the colony, a spy saboteur who replaced the head of state. Fact 93. Ants have influenced human languages and cultures around the world. Ancient Greeks used the word myrmex ant as a symbol of diligence. In the Russian language, murave comes from a Proto-Slavic root associated with moisture, murava grass. In the Bible, the ant is mentioned as an example of wisdom. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Fact 94. Myrmecology, the science of ants, is one of the most active fields of entomology. Thousands of scientific papers are published annually. Ants are used as model objects for studying the evolution of sociality, altruism, communication, aging, epigenetics. They are cheap to maintain, reproduce quickly, and demonstrate the entire spectrum of social behaviors that we observe in mammals only in miniature. Fact 95. Keeping ants at home. Myrm keeping is a growing hobby around the world. Special Formicaria artificial anthills made of acrylic plaster or sand allow observing the life of the colony in cross-section. This is like an aquarium, only instead of fish, a civilization with wars, construction, change of generations, births and deaths. Fact 96. Formic acid, formaldehyde, received its name precisely from ants. In 1671, the English naturalist John Ray first isolated it by distilling large red forest ants. The substance is used in the chemical industry in the production of leather, rubber, medicines, a discovery we owe to tiny insects. Formic acid is not formaldehyde. It is methanoic acid from the Latin formica ant. I clarify because confusion often arises. Fact 97. Ants survived mass extinctions. They went through the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction 66 million years ago, which destroyed dinosaurs and 76% of all life on Earth. Hell ants did not survive, but other lineages did. And after the extinction, a rapid diversification began. Ants occupied ecological niches that were freed after the death of dominant species. Catastrophe became a springboard for them. Fact 98. According to data from the International Union for Conservation of Nature, several species of ants are threatened with extinction. Destruction of natural environment, pesticides, climate change, invasive species. All this puts pressure on ant populations. We are losing species that evolved for millions of years, and most often we do not even know about it, because no one keeps records of every anthill in the forest that is cut down for development. Fact 99. Anthropogenic impact on ants is a silent disaster. Studies show that in forests, the density of ant populations is significantly higher than on plantations and in urban zones. Every hectare of forest turned into a field or parking lot is the loss of millions of ants and ecosystem services that they provide for free. Soil aeration, seed dispersal, pest control, decomposition of organic matter. We replace them with pesticides, fertilizers, and machinery. Ants did all this for 100 million years for free, and we are firing them. Fact 100. An ant is a creature that weighs less than a sugar grain, that lives from several weeks to 30 years, that lifts above its head a weight 50 times heavier than itself, that builds underground cities 8 meters deep, that wages wars, takes slaves, grows fungi, and herds cattle, that survived dinosaurs, ice ages, and an asteroid, of which there are 20 quadrillion on the planet, and which we crush with a finger without thinking. Maybe it is worth thinking. Not because the ant needs our pity, but because a creature that for 113 million years solves the same tasks as us: coordination, construction, war, medicine, agriculture, and does it without a single neuron responsible for the self, deserves at least our respect. Look at an ant. Take a closer look. Before you is a mirror, a small, six-legged mirror in which we see our own achievements and our own failures. If this information was useful, I will be grateful for support. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the Animal Beauty channel. The next video will definitely surprise you.